Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Inside the Product Marketing Mind, where we dive into the world of product marketing in fast-growth SaaS startups. Brought to you by earlynode.com. I'm Kristina, and today I'm joined by Peter Kortvel, an experienced product marketing expert who has become a thought leader in the space and shares learnings from other leading companies in his newsletter. Peter has had numerous roles across digital marketing for startups and is currently working as a senior PMM at Scandit. In this episode, Peter will help us cover the value of bringing your first PMM for early-stage startups, the power of visual and digital storytelling, and he'll also share learnings from his own personal experience working in the product marketing space. So welcome, Peter. Thanks so much for being here today.
Hello, Kristina. Nice being here. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure. Looking forward.
Amazing. So let's get started. And we'd love to hear a bit about your background, your professional experience, and any proud moments in your career.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll try to keep it relatively short, right? So I started in online marketing, and this was back in Slovakia, where I worked in a small company, then a big bank. And online marketing I found really useful for my today's product marketing work because it's super practical, and you work on so many different things, really hands-on, and plus you have a very good visibility into data. So you get this good feel of what works, what doesn't, right, in any future social media or any kind of work, right? After that, I decided I want some adventure. So startups were very cool at the time, right? So I decided I want to join a startup. So I moved to Dublin, Ireland, and I joined a very early startup as a co-founder. I headed marketing there, and it was a very tech product, IoT in their location. We got a really nice traction. We went to US to join a business accelerator there. We had a kind of huge deal in Canada. We were doing installation of our system in a warehouse distribution center on the size of 13 football fields, so huge. And so that was very interesting. And there, maybe one kind of learning was, because as a startup person, you need to do kind of everything, right? Not only marketing, but whatever product, anything, and talking, kind of pitching and doing pitches to customers, prospects. I found just so useful and so interesting because the way how I was able to explain the product and understand the product, because you're getting this immediate feedback. You say something, you see the face of the person, right? So you see what resonates, what works, right? So this is invaluable for product marketers, right? Then basically with this startup, it was going very slow, right? With due to technology and the delivery of what we wanted to do, right? So at some point I needed some income, right? And I saw this Oreo ad, like animated ad, and it was really. I really liked it, right? And I was like, I want to learn something like that. So I learned video animation. I wanted to learn a hard skill, and there I produced then over 10 animated explainers. At the time, every startup had to have animated explainer, like a few years ago, maybe you remember. And that was interesting because you have a startup leader that explains you everything about their startup in whatever way they say it, right? And now you need to put it into 1 minute, right? So that was basically kind of product marketing job plus animation, right? So I really liked that part. And after that, I moved back to Slovakia for a bit to take some well-deserved rest. And then since I love mountains, I found a nice opportunity in Switzerland, and I moved there. Now working at Scandit, where I worked on all kind of product marketing, basically all kind of activities, and slowly became to specialize more into visual storytelling, visual explaining. Yeah. So I don't know if this is short, but there was an attempt to make it short.
Oh, thank you so much for that example. I love the sharing the story around Oreo and the power of visual storytelling. So could you dig into that a little bit more and expand on why storytelling is so important for product marketing?
Yeah, maybe we can link in the podcast notes and then a link to the video. It's really nice. Anyway, so I find like visual storytelling just so important, and people don't give it enough importance. I feel even more in B2B, right? Because if you think of that, visual is the most effective type of content on social media, right? Visual is how we understand things, right? If a teacher wants to explain you something in the primary grade, they will draw it on a blackboard, right? They will not just talk, right? And visual connects to emotion as well, right? And then if you connect visual stuff and to storytelling, that's another powerful thing that comes kind of doubles down, right? So, and there was a lot of research that shows that if, for example, people or startups were pitching different ideas than at Stanford, right? They researched and they looked at companies that had some storytelling elements in there, and then people were able to remember these things better, right? And there were a lot of types of researching, but basically storytelling to me means connecting, right? So story allows you to connect to another person, right? So the typical story is a movie, right? And if you watch, you watch an action movie, you don't really care about that person, what happens to them, but you kind of imagine it's you there, right? You're shooting whatever, or you're watching a love movie and you're in love, or you're watching some movie where somebody dies and you imagine your family member, right? So story just gives us such a powerful tool to connect to other people, right?
Totally. Yeah, I love that. Love the examples that you gave. And I've been following your LinkedIn stories as well. So you've been sharing a lot of great examples on LinkedIn of how companies are using storytelling and digital marketing to create stories around products and really connect with their audience. If you need to hire the right developers and ship fast, then React Squad is for you. A boutique agency that specializes in React and only works with fast growth startups. Get a 14-day risk-free trial and a transparent price of $95 per hour. Visit reactsquad.io to learn more. So, do you have any advice for how companies should think about showcasing the product value in the right way through storytelling?
Yeah. So, and I've been doing this lately for one startup that does basically works with data of the soil to regenerate farmland, right? And it's just helping out basically. And we basically tried to, like, the startup leader basically telling me like, hey, I need this messaging, or like this say something on the website and something on the pitches, right? So we go and okay, so let's do the messaging together, right? And then we find that, okay, but like, what is the position of your product? What it is, right? Versus other products on the market. So we go into positioning, right? So it's really good to start with positioning to understand, and I don't want to make it more complicated than it is, but basically you have a product and you want to make it clear what that product stands for on the market compared to other products, right? How it differentiates, what value it brings, right? So you need to have a good understanding of that, and that can be a quick exercise. In our case, we found out even the product could be defined well, so we went back to job to be done framework and redefined slightly even that, right, to narrow down the product. But basically, you need to have a clear understanding what position, and then you can start basically explaining, right? And I would say to people who are not like maybe startup leaders, or they're not experienced with a lot of pitching, I would recommend that they forget everything they know about what they've heard or learned, etc. Because there's been so many things said out there. For example, a typical one, benefits are more important than features. Somebody said it at some point, and people don't even understand what are benefits, but they just feel it's more important, right? So I would just say, just find the most simple way how to explain what you do without any attempts to do anything outside of.
Totally.
Yeah. And then basically start talking to people. and explain them what you do, and then start adding to that, right? So you're working off your positioning, what your product means to the outside world. Then you just explain it as it is, right? And then you start noticing what resonates, right? And if I'm talking to somebody, I basically would follow some steps, right?
Yes.
Myself. So I believe the best way to start, like imagine you're talking to somebody at a party and they ask you, hey, so what you do? Like, and you want to give them this whole pitch, right? And they kind of don't care. They just ask what you do, right? And so the best first thing, if you are talking to somebody, is to find a way to connect to the person, right? So, for example, you're doing something that improves how medication is distributed or taken, right? So you maybe want to ask the person first, hey, have you been in a hospital ever? Have you taken medication? Right? So they can imagine, they kind of put a frame in their brain, like, okay, we're talking about this, it connects to me, right? And after you connect with them, then before you start introducing whatever you want to introduce, just say the big thing, right? Say whatever is the biggest thing, right? And to like really frame your thing in their heads, right? Imagine like in your brain there needs to be, or like in this person's brain there needs to be some space where you're just gonna like now then like stuff all the information, right? So we want to create some frame around that, right? And we had with our startup at the time, we had really smart people who helped us with something like that. So we had on our first slide of the pitch deck, we had a huge, nothing, just a huge blue whale, right? And the pitch started basically saying that blue whale navigates itself around the world, and it uses magnetic field to do this navigation. And we are harnessing the same technology to do in their location, right? And then there was a lot of startups pitching to investors, right? And then we went down and we were talking to people, and every single person, hey, you are the blue whale guys, right? So what's this blue whale, right? So we created this space, right? And it can be allegory, it can be, or people used to say, I am XY, we are Uber of XYZ, we are Uber of this and that. So maybe don't do that anymore, but this is also a frame, right? Because people then connect you to Uber, connect you to something they know, right? And and after that, you want to basically go into giving a huge promise, right? You can use the basically old world versus new world framework plus stakes, what's in stakes, that this change needs to happen. And this all of that is few sentences, right? And then you hopefully have their attention. If not, you explain the interesting stuff. If you have their attention, then you can go and explain how it works. And you need to explain how it works because this is the proof, this is the trust part, right? If you don't explain now without any storytelling, just explain what it is, right? If you don't explain, then people don't trust you, right? So we have to do that, right?
Totally. I love the simple but very powerful framework that you outlined for us. Especially the example around, using a connection or some kind of anchor to something that people remember or already know about and care about, like the whale or Uber. Could you explain for people who might not be familiar, what is the old world versus new world framework?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it many times through different storytelling leaders, right? They have kind of frameworks around that, right? And basically it's also kind of traditional framework, so maybe I'm not sure if you want to use it as a very long version of it, but basically you want to say how the world worked up until now, right? Or what's the old way without your product, right? Mm-hmm. And the new world is basically beautiful sci-fi world, right, where your product is existing, and yes, the future where people use your product. I don't know, you have a flying car, right? So people flying around and imagine how they can get to hospital quickly or something, right? And then you want to also explain the stakes, right? Because at this time of macroeconomic time, it's just getting people excited. It just kind of doesn't work, right? So maybe this framework is even more important, that in here that you say the stakes, right? Why do you need to change? I'm not sure how much of these typical storytelling things work now, when you need to be just very specific about if you don't use our product, you're losing out, right? So you maybe be careful about going too wide, right? And be really, really clear about the value. But I think you should still use this kind of very powerful framework, but make it more into what are the stakes, right? What makes it really important. And if you don't switch, if you don't change, you're basically losing out. Other companies are already using it, etc. Right?
Yeah, and I love this example, and also the kind of bringing it back to what the world looks like today, because I think things are getting more challenging for us as product marketers, especially around storytelling, because one, the economical state of the world makes it very difficult to actually sell and tell stories about products, because people care about different things now. Like, for example, my role has changed even in the last year, the way that I position different products or features. I've started even shortening the amount of time that I spend storytelling. So if I created a video around a minute long last year to talk about a new product, that video has shortened to 15 seconds, because people don't have time to listen to, long explanations and stories. They just want to hear, why is this valuable for me? Why do I need it today? And what should I do about it? So I think that kind of shortening of the storytelling aspect makes it even more powerful to just, share the concept, share the value, and then, let people move on. So I'm interested to hear about how do you develop sort of a storyboard when you're thinking about new storytelling?
Yeah, definitely. So when we work on a storyboard, or maybe I explain even specifically video work, because right, this is what we do a lot, right? So you have often people coming with idea of the end result, right? That's very, very typical, right? And the style. So that will be probably something they've seen somewhere, and something that they kind of just kind of transpose into what could be working for their products, right? So I'm always very careful when they come with that idea, and we kind of like note it down and make sure we have it. But we need to start with the goals, right? So any narrative, any storyboard needs to start with what it is you want to say, right? And once we know why we want to say something and what it is, we get together a value proposition of the product, right? There are frameworks or ways, for me at least, put it all on post-it notes in Miro board, right? And have it there and pick the things. Just to be short, right? Because sometimes getting value of the product, you can get these like long documents and long sentences. I don't like that, right? So if it doesn't fit on the post-it note, there's few words, then it's just maybe not a real value, just just talking around something, right? So you put all of that together, and then you still don't start with the storyboard, but you do something. I call it narrative flow. I don't know how other people call it, but basically you can just post-it note way put the narrative in kind of like a backbone of it, right? So you start with something, you follow up with some other thing, right? And then you end with something, right? So this is a good way to make sure that your narrative has some structure and explains things in the right way, right? And the points are there, right? You also want to define what is one thing, or like a big thing, or things that should come across, right? So, for example, for Scandit, we do very fast data capture, right? So for us, it's often speed, right? So if we want the speed, we don't always do videos around speed, but if we want the speed to come across, then we want to make sure that this is somehow said in the intro of the video. This is somehow said in the tagline or the outro at the very end as a summarized, or like at the end. And the speech should also come out throughout the video in any possible way. Maybe the video is cut very fast, right? Maybe the sound, the music is faster, right? So because video is such a short format that you need to make sure I kind of imagine when I do videos that somebody's going to watch it. It will be Friday, 5 p.m. after work. They're super tired. They have like 5% of brain capacity, and now they're just scrolling through LinkedIn before they get a beer, right? So
Yeah.
you kind of imagine there's the state where they are. So any thinking that they need to do doesn't, like, you need to think for them. You need to show it like in front of their eyes. If you say something, you show it big in the center of the screen, right? That's how you make it very clear. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. Especially the idea that, you're putting yourself in the customer's shoes. Where are they when they're watching this video? Do they really care at that point? Like, what's the most important thing that they need to hear? And make sure that thing really fits on a sticky note and nothing more than that. And that's your real value. So thanks so much for explaining that and walking us through a real life example. So I actually want to dig into your experience as a PMM. So you mentioned that you had worked for a very early stage startup back in Dublin, and then you kind of transitioned as working for a more bigger company. So I would love to hear kind of your advice for early stage startups when hiring your first PMM as a founder, and what kind of things that should be considered when you're in that position.
Yeah, so I'd say like it's I find it kind of complicated, right, for hiring the first PMM, because I see PMMs are kind of like mix of all personalities that you may have. It's like project management, organizational, networking, strategic person, and you have kind of PMM should have all of those, right? And it depends which company you work at. You may have more of one or the other, right? So some PMMs may be more project management oriented. They do a lot of launches, go to market. Some may be more networking, into connecting all the departments, because you work in a big company. You need to connect different people, right, and be able to put them kind of storytell or explain, right? And some other are more strategic, right? So, and now you are small. If you're a small startup, right, you're looking for first product marketer. You kind of need everything, right? And I feel the first thing is that founders need to find out what it is that basically they need to really well understand what is product marketing, because people still don't get it. I feel sometimes founders would get the product marketer because everybody else has a product marketer, and then you can see job description, write content, right, or handle launches, right? So that's great, but I think there's much more value to product marketing, right? As I explained, I was consulting this startup now, and as we were putting together messaging, I found out, okay, but there are issues with the product, right? It would take maybe too many years to evaluate on the market the product. Let's try to do something smaller that already has differentiator on the market, right? So we were able to go back, explain the startup leader, and try to work on that, right? So as a founder, you want somebody who can, in a sense, tell you when you're wrong, right? Nicely, and be able to present it in a way that you understand it, right? That because product marketers have this set of eyes that we're just used to looking at things some way, right? Like all we talk about is a differentiator on the market, right? And this just kind of mindset we have, right? So that's important, right? To have a person who can also do that, right? And now your options are either look for somebody more junior, right? If you're a small startup, and in that case, you may risk that person won't have enough strategic experience to be able to do product marketing that is on the level of delivering product market fit, right? Or is on the level of making sure the product gets to the market, right? Just this as a big outcome, right? Or you can get somebody very experienced, which maybe is for a founder expensive. So then you want to give them maybe shares to attract them, or they really like your idea, your product. Or I think kind of a nice approach, which nobody really does, I don't know why, is you can get somebody less experienced and get the coach for that person, or get a consultant who's highly experienced to just join a few hours a week and be able to grow your product marketer and be able to give you back the strategic input you need.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I recently had a conversation around what kind of experience do you need as an early stage PMM? And sometimes if you do come from some of the bigger companies, you have a different type of expectations from a startup, maybe things that they can't really offer you. But if you come from the startup world, then you're much more experienced and kind of agile in a way that you can, shift perspective and always, kind of move around and wear a lot of different hats, work with a lot of different teams. So you're kind of experienced in doing everything, because that's kind of what you have to do when you're that early stage. So I wonder if you have any advice for people who are either looking already experienced in product marketing and are looking to move into a startup world, or people who have never done product marketing but are looking to join a startup as the first founding PMM.
Yeah, so I would say it's kind of two different really people, but get ready that it will be hands-on, it will be dirty, right? You will be doing a lot of things, or you will be requested to do a lot of things, right? And now your job is, on one side, do a lot of things. On the other side, don't do everything people ask for. This is a huge problem for product marketers, and as mostly not experienced product marketers, that they try to please too many people. So not being able to say no to things, but that's a problem. And to me, it's not about like saying no, but it's about saying strong yes to things that really matter, right? So to be able to do that, you need to be somehow strategic and be able to set up objectives that are really big in terms of your value you're bringing, right? So bringing products to the market is your job, and bringing back information from the market to influence the product is your job, right? So objectives that make that clear, that the founders are on your side, right? Because then you can basically make sure that what you're working on has a real value, right? And then you can say no to other things, right? Because you have a project, right, selected, which is going to change or hugely impact the company, right? So you can easily say no to anything else, right?
Yeah, totally. I love that you said, regarding prioritization, and sometimes it's so hard to say no, but you should be saying a strong yes to the things that you see as more important, and things that you want to do and things that you see as valuable for the startup.
Totally.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on time, but I did want to point everyone who's listening to your newsletter. So if you want to get learnings from product marketing leaders delivered to your inbox every week, you can visit Peter's newsletter at productmarketingnewsletter.com and register. I also wanted to share my biggest learning from today. And I had one thing that really stood out to me that you said, Peter, was around the fact that as you're developing your value proposition for your product, make sure it fits on a sticky note. So I think that's super valuable, because sometimes we tend to get kind of really stuck into the positioning and messaging development, where we, write out full-on documents of words and kind of value propositions that we think are important for the customer. But in the end, it should all really sit on a very simple sticky note, one sentence, and that's all that matters. So Peter, I'm going to ask you, what was your biggest learning from today's conversation?
Yeah, from today's conversation, that would be my learning from what I said, was that because I was speaking.
What's one thing that you want everyone to take away from?
Maybe there's two things. First, I somehow see product marketing as a bigger space than what it often has now, right? To me, product marketer, kind of the name make it sound like it's a marketer, it's a marketing person, while if it was called product market manager, maybe that would make it more clearer, or product market fitter, right? To constantly make sure the product fits on the market, right? And improve that. So, and that's a different set of objectives and a different set of values. So I would really like people to understand the value of product marketing, the true value of it, right? And hopefully the whole position of product marketing will be growing to be able to deliver real value. And maybe second thing is if you create content, if you do launches, if you do go to market, don't forget to think of visual, how to visually explain things, how to add infographic, video, GIF, picture, architecture, anything that is visual that makes it easy for people to see what you're saying.
That's amazing. Yes, the power of storytelling. Thanks so much for being here today. It was so great talking to you. You've given us so much advice, so many insights, and I can't wait to share this episode with everyone else. And I encourage everyone to register for Peter's newsletter and to also follow him on LinkedIn for even more product marketing insights. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you very much, Kristina. It was a pleasure, and hope this will be valuable to your listeners.
Awesome. Thank you. If you like this episode, then you'll love The SaaS Operator, a weekly newsletter brought to you by Early Node, with actionable insights from SaaS experts in the industry delivered right to your inbox every Tuesday for free. Visit earlynode.com to subscribe.